Patients. My name is Einav Avni. I'm an energy healer and alignment coach. This podcast, Healing Conversations for Anything Chronic, is all about bringing the message of natural healing of any chronic illnesses and conditions. Let me introduce to you our guest today, Anita Das. Anita, it's so lovely to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm really excited about our conversation today. And let's get started. So we are going to, generally talking about discovering your soul plan or our soul plans and a little bit more about regressions. But tell us something about you. Let's get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. So just to keep it brief. So as far back as I remember, I was always quite fascinated by spirituality, just asking questions about where we come from, why we're here, where we're going. And I've just been curious really in that aspect. I did join kind of an international spiritual movement where I trained as kind of like a priest. So I learned some kind of Sanskrit mantras and that. And then from there, I had a near-death experience. When I came back in my body, I seemed to have access to other abilities, which led me to train in a number of modalities, such as talking therapy, such as regression, psychotherapy, counseling, coaching, but also energy healing like Reiki and sound healing, shamanic healing. So it kind of led me on the path, really, to healing and therapy, and been working with it ever since. So that's kind of a top level introduction.
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone with as many modalities and trainings and certifications and stuff like you.
Thank you.
So where do we start? How did you decide what modalities to learn? How did you decide to make this your thing?
It's just really been, I feel it's a calling, to be honest. I feel like a very intense calling at a soul level to engage in this work from a service perspective, for helping others, for helping, on a broader level. And it's just been lots of various synchronicities, almost following the breadcrumbs. Learning one modality led me to another teacher, and it kind of went from there. I'd say the common thread in all my offerings is really working with energy in various forms, either with sound or with talking, shamanic, so in reading. So it's very much working with the client, following their energetic thread, and seeing how to resolve and transform what they want to work on.
So this is very interesting, and I get that a lot from people that I speak with. This understanding of what is energy and how, because I guess a lot of people, they just come from the doctors, excuse me, and they just get the diagnosis. So they're very much in the physical realm. They're really very much about this, this is a diagnosis and this is the structural situation and this is the pains that I'm feeling. And here we are talking about energy and healing with energy. How do you explain this to people?
It's really, people can experience kind of symptoms on a physical level in terms of pain. And when we look at pain, we ask kind of what is pain? It's really a blockage somewhere within our system. So we're made up of an energy system. So everything is energy or frequency. And, where there's any particular blockage, that's what's leading to a pain. And often it comes through different layers within our what's called subtle bodies. So we have our physical body, then we have our emotional body, mental body, and our spiritual body. So if there's an unresolved issue, it can come through that more subtle layers before it comes to our physical body and manifests as pain. So the idea of healing is really working on it either on a preventative level or working on the outer levels before it physically kind of manifests.
Mm. And you say you mostly work on the energy level with people. So what does that entail?
So really, I'm just able to kind of get a sense of the energy. It really depends on what they've come to work with, which modality. So, for example, if it's to do with removing any kind of intrusive energy, I will tap into be able to kind of look into their aura or their energy body, see which organs need anything removing, and work kind of on a psychic or mediumistic level, working with with guides, etc. So really looking at the intention for what they want to work on. So, for example, for regression, we access the subconscious or the inner mind, and we go to the source of any kind of unresolved issue, either in a past or current life. If they come for Reiki, it's really just looking at just providing that kind of container for the angelic kingdom, really to work with them. If it's sound therapy, again, it's just working holistically, so all parts of their bodies, just what needs being brought to the surface. But the way that we're working is so that it's not too much for them to process or overwhelm. So it's very gentle, just working according to how much each person can process in their own way, in their own time. So everyone has different things going on, and we want it to be done in a gentle way.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that people can come, because we have all of these different bodies that you mentioned, people can really come for whatever challenge they have, and you will find the right modality, the right energy, the right way to tune in and clear these blocked energies.
Yes, that's right. And sometimes people know specifically what they want from looking at my website. They would want maybe a particular Andean shamanic healing, or they would want particular talking therapy. But other times people just aren't sure, and they come to me, and we can just talk through what they're experiencing, what they want to work on, and I can kind of get a sense of what would be best for them to receive.
Mm-hmm. And today we want to talk a little bit about regression and about soul plan. So what is regression?
So regression is really accessing the subconscious, really to go to the source of any particular unresolved issue or emotion, which could be in their past life or in their current life. So really we're going back to the source of this issue, and it's resolving any conflicts, unresolved trauma, emotions from the past. And though that might be inaccessible or unaware to their conscious mind, but they are being influenced in their kind of mental, emotional, or physical symptoms that they're experiencing. And the analogy I like to give is it's like having a thorn buried deep inside. It's causing a lot of physical discomfort. Once you remove that thorn, then those symptoms will not return, they'll disappear. So it's getting to the root cause of what their issue is. Instead of kind of putting a plaster on top of it, we're really going to the cause of what the issue is. So, for example, if someone comes to me, if someone has a migraine, they have chronic lower back pain or a knee problem, it's telling some kind of story, and it could be from an accident they've had before, or from childhood trauma. Any pain in specific parts of the body could be is related to where they experienced trauma or pain in their past life. So, for example, if a client comes to me with chronic neck pain, that could be related to a past life where they could have been executed or hung. And so we go back to that and completely kind of transform that and work with it. So then that symptom doesn't return. They've gone to the cause of it. And often it's a case where they've gone to the doctor or medical professional and they haven't been able to get a resolution. And then they may approach for regression, and then they're working on it on a more holistic or broader level.
I'm going to say, wow. I mean, it is. I mean, I've heard about it before, but it's so interesting when you say, yes, let's look at what happened before, and like you said, the trauma is the indication of what they're suffering from now is indicative of the trauma that they had, and it gets you thinking, right? Like, you really, who was I, and how come I'm carrying all of these things forward with me? So I guess some people believe, and some people don't believe in reincarnation and all of that. So I guess we should say that this conversation is definitely for those that that believe, because we're not trying to convince anyone of anything.
I would just add to that, you don't need to believe in reincarnation or past life to have a regression. You can just say that we're going into the subconscious mind to access particular memories where you're doing creative visualization, imagination. So, it's really just being open. So you don't necessarily need to have that belief system of past lives or reincarnation. It's just coming for something to be brought to the surface and healed.
Right. So just be open-minded.
Yeah.
And so how does that work? I mean, I know that when people come for hypnotherapy, sometimes they're really worried that they won't be able to be hypnotized. And how is that? And also, I've been reading some books about regressions and stuff, and the guy that is describing the regression very much like a movie. Like people just close their eyes and they have access to all of these. How does it happen? What's going on there?
Yeah, that's great. So there's different ways to get the client into that altered state of consciousness. Hypnosis, is one way, but generally we use some type of what's called as a bridge into that state. It could be an emotional, physical, verbal, any particular kind of bridge that we use, which is more common with regression. So if someone was kind of overly analytical, it would take that into account. Using various techniques, but the important thing is really to get them into that relaxed state, to have rapport with the client, make sure they feel comfortable, they understand, what's going to happen, and being in an altered state or being in hypnosis, it's really just being like in a zone. When, for example, when you're reading a book and you kind of you're tuned into the book, it's you're still in control. You can come out at any time, but it's just accessing a different state of consciousness.
And what happens when people say that they know, maybe it's the analytic mind, or maybe they just have experience already, that they're not very visual, or they don't really see things?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So that's fine. I mean, I'm very visual as well as feeling, but you don't have to be visual. So, for example, someone can feel. Normally it's the clairsentience it's called, the feeling sense, which comes in stronger, and that's perfectly fine. So what we work is bringing the kind of embodying the client into the past life character, establishing the scene that they're in. What's happening around them. Are they with anybody? What are they wearing? Really trying to work with them to get them embodied into that past life. And then just guiding them through that process, exploring the past life scenes, what's happening, any significant events, how they die, etc., and what they take with them on there. So it's very much, really case by case. So some people have had hypnosis or regression before, and others are new to it. So it's just working individually with each client, assessing, what they need. And normally I would start if a client comes to me, they normally complete a very short questionnaire or client form. And in that I would take, some information. We would establish kind of the objective and intention of the session. I would get some measurable symptoms. And that idea of that is to monitor any changes, assessing the effectiveness of the therapy. And then we would look at what their thoughts, their emotions, their physical symptoms are, and how their life would be different if they didn't have this issue presenting itself. So there is a talking first, really kind of like a client interview, and we discuss, what they want to work on, what's coming up for them, before we actually, kind of dive into the regression.
And is it so when you do start, is it that, as you said, you're looking for the root cause, so the subconscious mind will know what to bring up? It knows exactly where to take them to answer the question that they're looking for. Absolutely.
So that's the importance of setting the intention at the beginning of the session. So it's kind of quite specific as to what we want to work on, what's coming up, and that might require a bit of conversation initially to delve in. So, for example, they might be saying they're frustrated, and stronger than frustration is anger, but maybe as we talk below that, there are other emotions that they want to look at, maybe shame, guilt, fear, powerlessness. All these are different emotions, that would be looked at separately.
And are you saying that when you are aware of the trauma that happened, is that enough to then let go of the symptoms, or do you then need something else to, to make it so?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So there's kind of a process in place. So once we've had the interview, the client has been regressed, either past life or their current life. They're embodying that character. We've established the scene. If it's a past life, we go to specific significant events. Sometimes what happens is there's catharsis, where there's a release of intense emotion. But once we've kind of established, information about the past life or what's happening in the current life, we basically follow that energetic thread of what's happening, and then we work to transform. So the first part is really identifying what's going on, and then I use different transformation techniques in the spirit realms to affect the healing. So this could be dialogue between some of the past life or current life characters. This could be using different techniques to bring about resolution and forgiveness. And working on different levels, bringing in there's a myriad of different techniques for transformation, and then we'd always check before completion that everything had been resolved, and whether other sessions were needed. But the thing with regression is that it does cover lots of different areas. So for example, someone could be having disturbing or obsessive thoughts. It could be related to any kind of emotional problem to do with kind of fear, anger, guilt, sadness. It could be to do with any physical symptoms, muscle pain, aches. It could be to do with relationships, family, work, social. So it covers a wide range. I've had quite a lot of related to childhood trauma, to sexual abuse, rape, and relationships. So if you go to my website, there's actually a link where I've given examples of a few different case studies that I've worked on, and how going through the session led to resolution and release of kind of unresolved issues that they had experienced early in life or past life. So it's very broad in the sense of what can be worked on.
Yeah, and we said that the subconscious mind takes you to that place, to the root cause. So what would make someone have to come back for another regression? Is it I mean, how many events do you go back through in a sessions, and what might be a need to get back into another regression session? Basically, I guess I'm asking, can there be more than one root cause for the symptoms?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So it really depends, on the client. So this is the importance of the measurable symptoms. So a week after the regression, I would follow up and see, has there been a change in those measurable symptoms, which looks at, has there been a reduction in the level of intensity, duration, frequency, what they're experiencing? And, if it hasn't been completely reduced, then we would have, another session. So, for example, I've had clients where, their issue is resolved within one session. Their measurable symptoms have completely been reduced to zero, and they don't feel any kind of emotional charge or trigger. But other clients I've had to work on a longer basis, maybe 3 sessions, and each time we're monitoring the progress. So it's done in quite a structured way. And sometimes the reason is it's too much for someone to process, in one session and subsequent sessions, depending on what they're working with.
Mm. So maybe more is being revealed, or maybe basically you can build a wider picture of what is going on and what things started and stuff like that.
Yeah, and also it's other things may come to the surface from working on the initial objective that they came with. So other things could come to light through the process. So it's quite fluid. It really depends what the client is coming with as their presenting issue.
So can you give us a few more examples, maybe more about physical symptoms that people came with, and that the work with the regression helped release or relieve?
Yeah, sure. So it's fairly broad. So I gave the example of the neck pain, but it can be emotional. So some of the past lives can be related to, for example, to war themes. Maybe there's been, an issue about not feeling belonging to the community. They might regress to a past life where maybe they were like a native. I've had one where they've been like a Native American Indian. They're working on their land, living on their land, but it's been taken by soldiers, and then there's a war, and the client feels the need to kind of honour the land, nature, and the animals. So it's been a process of really going through the core theme that they're working with. So it could be like a theme of like abandonment. It could be, it could be a community. It could be a whole range of things that they're looking at working on. And that past life is really working with them to bring that to their awareness from the subconscious. And we're working really at their pace that's comfortable for them, because some of the emotions that come up can be uncomfortable, and we need to be sensitive when there's a catharsis, or using various techniques to ensure that it's done in a safe way for the client, that they can process, and they can kind of effectively kind of relive that trauma in a way that they're feeling safe and guided, so that they can actually release it and transform it, which is the main thing, and ensure that any blockages or anything suppressed is released in a safe way, but also transformed, so they feel the positive aspects. And that's why the transformation part of the regression is so important, because it's really bringing that healing, but also using various techniques to ensure that they finish the regression feeling kind of empowered, uplifted, and feeling the positive aspects. So, for example, I could use a technique called kind of reframing, or taking them to a past life where they had a positive experience. So, for example, if they had an issue with a relationship, I could take them to a positive past life where they experienced a very committed, loving relationship. So they have had that experience before, and they're feeling the feelings once they're embodied in that character. That's just kind of one example of it, But there's a myriad of different techniques that can be used. And again, it's really working with a client and feeling and following kind of that the energetic thread. So I'm very much working with my kind of unseen spirit team, guides, etc. And so I'm kind of fairly visual, kind of clairvoyant. I basically see the past life running as a video. So I see what the client is seeing as well. And that really helps me connect in with them. But you don't have to see that. It's just something that happens spontaneously for me. Yeah.
Fascinating. So, because you said that you can get them back to go into a place where the positive, event or something was taking place. So I was going to ask, do we have everything in our lives, in our past lives, or do we have a theme? Like if someone with the neck pain, for example, and it's from, I don't know, 15 lives ago, would that mean that in every life they had neck pains, or will they also have times when there's no neck pain? Or if I guess that's also connecting to the question about the soul plan later on, to understand the theme of our lives is kind of what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, so I think what the higher mind or subconscious brings the client to is really the lifetime the past life that needs the healing, or that needs to be healed. So it could be, we're going with the intention of going to the source of what that neck pain or whatever pain is presenting.
Yeah.
And then understanding kind of the story behind it, and getting an awareness of what was happening in that past life, and then kind of going into the kind of whatever the trauma was, or whatever, it could be to do with the interactions with other people that led to a certain belief or emotion. It could be a whole myriad of things, and then really working on exploring and transforming that. So when we do actually go to the death point in the past life, we look at, is there any kind of trapped soul energy that needs to be released? Is there any unresolved, uncomfortable emotions or thoughts that they're taking with them? We really delve quite deep. It's quite deep work, and I talk about past lives, but really the lives are all kind of stacked, or they're all happening simultaneously. But it's just going to these different parts to really bring healing to those aspects, of ourselves, or that need to be, that we're ready at that time to be looked at. So another aspect of this is I mentioned that basically we explore the past life, we do the healing and the transformation, but we use different techniques. So for example, if there's been blockages in the body, sometimes there's use of body therapy or psychodrama to release any blockages from the body. That's another particular technique. And then if it's related to current life transformation, we sometimes go back to the inner child and use various techniques there. And then sometimes clients will come, they may not be able to get into regression, and we look at what the reasons are. And sometimes there could be what's called intrusive energies or other energies not belonging to the client that need to be released for them to get into the regression. So there are various ways that the session can go depending on what's being brought to the surface. So if there is another energy, we would work with that, understand what that energy is, what the resonance was for that energy to be attracted to the client at that time. And then I work with releasing that energy in a safe way, ensuring that the client's left physically healthy and taking anything away that it brought with it. So again, it's really quite fascinating because the session could go in any direction. It could be a current life in a child's transformation. It could be a kind of what's called a spirit release or intrusive energy release. It could be going back to a past life. It could be use of this body therapy. It really could go any way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so did you ever have a situation where someone spoke a different language?
Yes, I have. So I've also worked with past lives which have gone to non-human past lives. So they've gone to extraterrestrial, alien past lives, and that we can come in a different language, but we can always work with that and ask. Then I'm kind of working with my team and the client's team to see kind of how this is taken forward. But generally, it's the same type of approach, it's very interesting working with the kind of non-human past lives as to what's coming up, because there's been quite a few of them do tend to show up from time to time. Again, it just depends on what the client is coming with for the session.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder, I was thinking, as you were saying earlier, I was thinking, all right, let's see if I can ask you if I can give you some symptoms and you can give me some, if you worked with people like that, maybe some explanation for what might have been going on, just to encourage people to maybe come to see you, or maybe to just get them thinking about this idea that they have this root cause. So one thing about, I guess, is weight loss. People that say, tried everything, nothing works. What might be something that is coming from, root cause, let's say, to keeping them in this way?
Yeah, so for weight loss, you could actually also look at hypnotherapy as well as regression. As you know, with hypnotherapy, it's basically putting the client in altered state of consciousness. We're using a kind of particular script. So this one would be focused on weight management, and it would be around what the client wants to achieve in terms of weight management. So I just want to say it's open. That would also be open to hypnotherapy as well as regression. Again, I would have to go into each specific client. So it's really about tuning into the energy of the client, what they're bringing, and really going into the source of who they are, and working with that thread of what their issue is, and really delving deeper. So there's no kind of generic formula for any kind of particular presenting issue. We would have to work with a client because every client is different, and the way to solve it will be different as well. But I just wanted to make it aware that something like weight management can easily be done in kind of a hypnotherapy session rather than a regression, but it can be done for either. So regression, we're working more with kind of emotional issues or deep trauma, that can really be looked to be resolved.
Mm-hmm. So, because I was going to think, weight loss is one thing that I know that some people come to me with. So I have someone, with a tremor, for example. Mm-hmm. What might they be looking at? Where is my question? What might they find if they went into regression to look at the cause for the tremors?
Yeah, so it really depends. It's like I said, it's not. There's no generic formula. It would really depend on that client. So we would first of all have that. I would get the completed questionnaire. We would have that kind of discussion initially of what their objective intention is for the session. Look at the measurable symptoms, what emotions, thoughts, physical symptoms they're having, how their life would be different without it, and then we would have some form of discussion before, and then we would work. So for example, I could have one client coming with that. What was it? We said the tremor, and they could go, to a past life, where they, they had some kind of trauma which led to the tremor. Or for another client, it could be something that happened in their current life that we go to. So it's completely different from client to client where we go, where the source of the issue is.
No, I understand. I was just thinking, hey, if there's some things that we could tell them, that would be really cool. But
that would be great.
I get it.
It would be great. That's that would be fantastic if it could be like that. But yeah, it really is quite specific to the client.
Yeah, no, I get that. So a lot of the time, I some people that I work with and some people that I just speak with, they say, it's a big question about how do we look at chronic conditions, and is it something that I brought on? Is it something that was done to me? Is it something that I inherited in some way? Came down in ancestral lines and stuff. So how do you explain chronic conditions?
So it can be a number of different things. So if we, for example, if we do regression, then going to the source, it could be from a past life trauma or something in the current life. Or if I was looking at ancestral healing, it could be something within the ancestral line. So what I would do really is really tune into the client and look at where is the source is coming from. And that could just initially be just energetically tuning in and seeing what's needed. Mm-hmm. So chronic conditions, I would say regression would be maybe a good start, because we are looking at the source of where that chronic condition has come from, particularly if it hasn't been resolved through medical interventions. It may be something that needs to go back further. So we would really need to look at it case by case. But I would say something like a good chronic illness or regression would be a good starting point to really dig deeper into where the source of that chronic illnesses comes from, whether it's this life or past life. Mm-hmm. And then I think I know you mentioned soul plan. I think soul plan is also a good way to kind of to look at the experiences that the client's had. So it's more that life purpose guidance, but it also the second part of the soul plan reading includes a soul healing. So then that would include kind of clearing any kind of energetic blockages, ancestral, causal, karmic, family blockages using what's called the Divine Law of Grace. So that's another kind of healing method that could be looked at. Coming in specific energies. So soul plan is based on an ancient Hebrew text called the Sefer Yetzirah, and explores creation of reality through sound, letters, and word. And so this start of creation gematria method was channeled by Frank Alper, and then Blue Marsden added further interpretations to it. But I think it's quite useful because it does present itself with your challenges, talents, and goals. So it basically takes the sound vibration from your birth name, as shown on your birth certificate, that produces a set of frequencies that's plotted upon a 6-pointed star of creation. The downward pointed star relates to your worldly or physical challenges, talents, and goals, and the upward triangle of the star, is the spiritual aspects. Mm-hmm. The downward are mainly in the first 35, 40 years, and spiritual in the upper. So what we're looking at there is making sense of what energies you've come into this incarnation with, and why you've had the experiences you've had today. And really, it's a reading. You'll provide you with soul plan charts, but the last part of it is a healing, soul healing, where there is kind of a clearing of blockages, which, we talked about chronic pain. So this is another example of an alternative way of doing kind of a clearing or a healing on a soul level.
So does it mean that could someone come to this world? I mean, I read this in a book. I don't remember what it's called, probably Soul Plan, but really that says that before we come to this world, we agree in advance what experiences we might want to have, and maybe not on a day-to-day kind of thing, but maybe more like, there was an example there about someone who became completely paralyzed, and and they showed how that was, a plan that he made. He wanted to experience it in this life, but not necessarily to be paralyzed so much as to see how kindness and connection can be experienced even if you don't have the same experience of your body as other people. So I'm wondering, is that how you see it, and is it worth going to finding out what your plan was?
That's a really great question, because it's leading me on to, because we talked about regression, but there's also a modality called between life spiritual regression. And this is where the client is placed in a very deep level of hypnosis. And they're basically guided into their soul memories. And we go into their last past life and then look into the reasons as to, why they've chosen the body for this particular incarnation. They've chosen their parents, they've chosen the theme that they want to work in, or the lessons they want to learn. And there's been research by Michael Newton and so many on this level of work, and it's really fascinating. You go through the whole process from your last past life into going into those spirit realms, meeting with kind of council of elders, understanding your purpose, kind of your mission, for this life, why you're incarnating, what themes you're wanting to work with, and then in that you're choosing your parents, your life situation, your body even, and because you're in a regress state, you're actually experiencing this, in that state, and you're able to come in and ask any questions that you want within the session.
So the client sees this as well as you. So it's
or sees or feels or has a sense of knowing, any way they want to work. But generally, it's called between spiritual, between life spiritual regression, they would have to have a past life regression first to clear kind of any kind of trauma, and then we would work on the between life spiritual regression, where they would have a navigation that would be guiding them and navigating through their soul memories from their last past life into this current incarnation. And it can come when they come into the womb and through the birth canal as well. So they get the whole experience of who they were and why they're here, and it can give them a sense of purpose. So similar to Soul Plan, it gives them that level of information and a kind of a sense of purpose, which can lead to kind of empowerment and things opening up for them in a different way.
It sounds to me, I've done some regression before, and I remember I couldn't. It was a little bit challenging for me, I must say, and I needed to allow for things to come, and then all of a sudden I had this. I just knew, like, all of a sudden I knew that I was in this room, and that I was, the maid. And so it was kind of a collection of knowings, and then at the end of it, I was able to look back at my life at the moment and gain some new perspectives really about what who I was. But I was wondering, I mean, is it always how do people, how are they impacted really? I mean, sometimes I guess there can be, like you said, the empowerment and the positive element of all of this when you can really understand things a little bit better. Maybe why are you doing things now? Maybe what is holding you back? What is something that you were not aware of until now?
Yeah. So as part of the session, towards the end, we would do what's known as kind of an integration, where we would, the client could look at any patterns from their past life that they're experiencing in their current life. It could be any characters from their past life that they recognize in their current life. So there's the kind of the energy signature of that character. So, for example, their mother in their past life they could recognize as their sister in their current life, for example, and their similar pattern is being displayed in the relationship. And looking kind of to kind of have an integration, that can be in many different ways. There could be use of kind of affirmations. There can be other techniques that we use to really embed the client and to fully allow that integration to take place. So it's quite interesting because that's also a very important part to see kind of the parallels of that past life, kind of relating back to their situation they're in now in their current life.
Yeah. And so can people heal really after a session from just really understanding the root cause and what is the accumulated reasons for them being the way that they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had many clients that have gained resolution from the experience, but it really depends on the client. It depends how engaged they are. It depends how willing they are to situations where clients have fully resolved, have reached full resolution, as well as self-awareness and understanding of why they went through those experiences. There's kind of a lesson or an opportunity for growth from the challenges that they've experienced, and looking back in hindsight in the past life, they can have that level of awareness and understanding why they went through that, and now it can also cause a shift in perspective, which can lead to a change in their reality through that shift in perspective and thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a great fan of the book by Anita Moorjani. She had the book Dying to Be Me, where she reports that after her near-death experience, from being completely dead, basically, she knew that she came back and she knew that the cancer that she had was the result of this, deep-seated fear that she had, and that basically now she understood that there's no reason to fear, and the cancer basically disappeared. So I'm guessing that's what you're saying, that this is possible when people have these insights that they become aware of. They can then have this transformation.
Yeah, and obviously you don't need to go through like the near-death experience.
Yeah.
You need to like an expansion of consciousness and awareness. That you, and it's about looking at kind of the belief system as well. So all these things being worked on can effectively, change your reality. So it's all quite malleable, and it's really, how the client wants to work, what they want to achieve, just really working, on what their presenting issue is, and seeing how it can be transformed, resolved, and at the end of it, then gaining that understanding. So it could be, as well as self-awareness, they could notice, a shift in their relationships. They could have more positive relationships. Things that weren't serving them, they could let go of. Kind of transpire in many different ways for different people, and potentially put them on, different timelines from where they were before, different paths, new opportunities, possibilities can come forth. So yeah.
And in the healing that you said that you do at the end of the session, so is that like, can someone say, right, I maybe make decision to have this physical condition, and so is part of the healing, the soul healing that you do at the end is like saying, actually, I've had enough, I've done enough, so now I can let go of that? Can that be part of that, like a soul reset, I guess?
Yeah, that can be. So, for example, once we've understood the lesson from having that particular pattern, we've acknowledged it, it can be that you can let go of it. Sometimes there's what's known as soul contracts in place, which need to be kind of revoked or amended, depending on each case. So there could be kind of cords that need to be looked at. So there's all kinds of things that are into play here. But absolutely, if there's pattern, that's one of the one purpose of regression. It could be to release any kind of limiting beliefs or patterns of behaviours that aren't serving us, to understand, the lesson from that, and then have that effectively evolution of soul growth, and then move forward in a new and empowered way onto something different. So it's kind of getting us out of a kind of a stuck state so that we can move forward, really.
Yeah. I think it's definitely fascinating. So we're coming towards the time to finish the conversation, but I'd love to hear an example, a case study. I know you have many, but something that you feel is really exciting to share with us all today.
There's lots of different case studies. So, I've had ones to do with relationships, to resolving relationships where there's been kind of, for example, one client might have had a fear of rejection in relationships. So we regressed to the source of that. That particular client had experienced a childhood sexual abuse, multiple rapes, and being rejected by the community. So I used a number of transformation techniques, bringing understanding and awareness to what was happening. Through the end of the regression, she felt that she could achieve that success, in love, in relationships, career. That she felt fulfilled, had her family around her. She felt positive, so she was stepping forward in an emotional way, in an empowered way, once she'd had released those blockages from the childhood trauma, and in a way, you have to be willing to kind of engage and almost kind of relive that trauma, but in a guided, safe way, in order to release it. So it's being very kind of brave and coming forward and acknowledging, that you want to release this, and going through the process, but then knowing, through the end of it, it can lead to a complete transformation, and upliftment from where they are, and other possibilities. So it's quite amazing. I've had other cases where I've had people coming in and out from kind of working through past lives, working through current lives, where there's a kind of an energetic thread there, to do with kind of emotional pattern they're experiencing. But then also sometimes they've gone into, like I said, kind of non-human lives, which have been interesting, of what they experienced on that level as well. And for example, they could have, I think I had one where there's a thing of torture, where there was a release of control mechanisms around them in their non-human past life. And using different techniques such as body therapy, etc., to release those blockages. But for them, it was important for them to, I guess, have that awareness of those different experiences, those different lifetimes that they'd been in, on it, kind of opening them up to, these different kind of memories or experiences that they've had. So it really is quite profound. I've worked with lots of different modalities, and I'm always amazed at the power of regression, and specifically the importance of the transformation, and how it can lead to such profound change.
Yeah. Did you ever have a situation where someone is actually a new soul, so they couldn't go into a past life, so there was like none?
that's a good question. I haven't actually. I've had clients have always been able to kind of go into whether it be past life or an earlier point in their current life, and that could be in the womb, you know, of their mum. But where they haven't been able to regress, it's normally because there's some kind of energy not belonging to them that needs to be removed, kind of intrusive energy. So they have actually managed to regress. So I haven't had anyone that is, I guess what you're saying is that this is their first incarnation. That's an interesting question. I haven't experienced that. But I guess the clients that come forward probably have a sense that there is something in their past that they need to work on a subconscious level, which is guiding them forward for the regression. Yeah.
And what is one thing that really surprised you from a regression session?
I think it's really like magic in a way, because I'm really, because I never know what to expect, you know, before the set going in, and then the magic of seeing that transformation, of seeing, you know, where we go, and it's very visible for me because I see it very clearly, you know, like a video, so I can really understand what the client's experiencing. So for me, it's really the transformation that the client experiences, and being able to release some of these conditions which they may have crippled them in day-to-day life, and then for them to be finally kind of be free of that, and open up to so many different possibilities in terms of health and relationships. It's really wonderful to kind of be a witness, kind of a sacred witness to the client's transformation and journey and evolution of their soul.
Yeah. Like I said, my experience of the regression is a little bit limited. I think it was about 3 sessions that I've done. But I remember, you know, one question that I was asked, like, you know, I think it was like, you know, you come to the gate, who's standing there, who is that? And, you know, one of them, I had this, I don't know, the impression that my younger brother was standing at the gate and he's going to be my guide. And I remember that just connecting to that notion was so, you know, it was so wonderful, because, you know, I got to spend a lot of, however long the session was, I got to spend all that time with him, and taking that away from me, taking it away with me afterwards as well was, you know, really, it's kind of really bringing into the conscious awareness that these guides or these people are there, and like you say, when you are now aware of the experiences or the root cause, it's it really does help to look at things in a different way. It's it is very, very interesting. So Anita, before we finish for the day, what is one message that you want to leave our viewers and listeners with today?
I know I've spoken a lot about regression, but if that's something you're not drawn to, when we have trauma, we sometimes have what's called kind of fragmentation of soul parts, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a regression. It can be something called like a soul retrieval through shamanic healing. It could be through there's a myriad of different therapies that you can try. But I would say, you know, if you're looking at something you've had for a long time, and you really want to kind of resolve this and step forward, you know, just have an open mind, just see what pulls you in, see what grabs your attention, and you know, nothing to lose by trying something different and seeing where that leads. Yeah,
I really like this message, actually, especially because so many people are a little bit skeptic about things that they don't necessarily understand. But you have so many different ways of helping people. So all of your information is going to be in the show notes, and people are definitely welcome to get in touch and have a conversation, ask questions, and yeah, so it's all there. But I was also going to say to anyone listening or watching to really, give it a go. Not only for yourself, but also if you know someone who you think this you know, Anita and her services or this conversation has been useful or can help people heal or I don't know, get more empowered in whatever is the symptoms, then please do, share the video and the conversation. Anita, thank you so much for being here today. It was a wonderful conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm like, down so many questions. I should definitely try again this regression thing and see what comes up. It's fascinating, and knowing that you can see it as a video with me, I think it's very helpful. It must be very helpful for your clients.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our discussion today. It's been fascinating, and happy to share any other time. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. So everyone else, thank you as well also for being here, and do please, like, share, comment, and let's spread the message that healing yourself naturally is possible. Thank you so much.